Welcome to the video, everyone. Thanks for joining me. We've got a guest speaker on the channel today, Alice. She's a 10K Club member and she launched her product over the last 12 months, and she's going to be sharing her experience with you about how she's gotten on. So I hope you enjoy it. Please comment below. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comment section and enjoy the video, guys. Thanks for coming on. It's a Sunday. I appreciate it.
It's all right. What else would I be doing? I'd be watching TV or something.
Well, we're all in lockdown, or soon to be in lockdown. So yeah, I agree with that. I'm stuck at home, so I could be here all day. Should we do an all dayer?
Yeah.
Yay!
You might be pretty bored of me after about half an hour. So.
About the all dayer. Well, introduce yourself to the channel. People who don't know who you are.
Yeah, okay, so I'm Alice, I live in Bristol. I started with the FBA training back at the end of 2018, and I launched my first and only product in November last year. So yeah, coming up to a year of it now. Okay, cool. And with regards to the start of your journey, what made you choose Amazon FBA? Presumably, at some point, obviously, you didn't know what it was, and you maybe were looking at a few different things. How did you end up, deciding on that? Yeah, so I was just like in bed one day, just watching a load of YouTube stuff, as you do, and I got just presented with this TED talk from this guy that was talking about passive income. And he was like this young entrepreneur, he was like Entrepreneur of the Year 2017 or whatever it was. And he made his millions doing property portfolios.
Yeah.
But his TED talk was specifically about passive income. And it was something I'd never heard of before. So he was talking about how, the traditional method of making money is you go to work, you exchange your time for money. Whereas passive income is obviously not exchanging time for money. It's something that you set up and you make money, regardless of the time spent in a lot of, yeah, exactly. So I was like, this is interesting. So I started really looking into ways of passive income, and there's loads of different ways of passive income. You could write a book or write a song or do a blog or, all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. But one of them was Amazon FBA. Well, it just said selling on Amazon to begin with. And I thought, well, that could be something to get into, just because my dad already does retail arbitrage through Amazon. So he's based in France. He retired to France. But he couldn't just retire and do nothing, because he's the kind of person that needs to do something. So he set it up. So he knows something about Amazon already, but I didn't want to do exactly the same as him, retail arbitrage.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to do something separate. But also, I kept hearing that FBA private labeling was a lot more lucrative than retail arbitrage, even though he's very successful in retail arbitrage, by the way.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to do the same as my dad, so yeah, I went down this route, and so that's why I did it.
And I think going back to that, like the topic of like passive income, the word is thrown around a lot, isn't it? Passive income. You see it raved about a lot online, whether it's dropshipping or Amazon FBA. But really understanding that what we mean by passive income, guys, is actually having an income stream that you're not, like Alice said, exchanging your time for money for. So whether it's FBA, could be property. I'm looking at property at the moment. Something that you can have like a reoccurring income from, monthly, that you can build on without having to exchange more time for it. So not only are you're not spending as much time, in most cases working on the business, but there's no ceiling to what you're doing, right? Same with Amazon FBA, because you're working 40 hours a week to get the profit or the income that you're doing now. It means that you can double it, triple it, quadruple it without having to exchange that time, because you wouldn't be able to put in an infinite amount of hours a week to increase your income if you were working a job, right? You have to have pay rises. you have to be paid more per hour. Whereas with passive income, you can obviously build and develop the business to increase that, which is obviously what we're doing now with Amazon FBA. So that was how you got started. So did you get any tips from your dad when you got started then? Did he did he shed any light on how it all worked?
Not initially. I think because he does retail arbitrage, he could tell me a bit about how Amazon worked, but not necessarily the model. So it's a different model. He buys and sells things that already exist. So he'll buy and sell Dysons or Panasonic cameras or Lego or whatever. So it's a completely different model. So the whole thing of,
the concept is a bit different.
Product and private labeling and sourcing from China and everything, he didn't really have an input in. But later down the line, when you have to start dealing with the Amazon platform and the Amazon Seller Central people you have to talk to, it was more valuable at that point that he had some input in.
And I suppose you didn't want him to have too much input because it was your thing, Again, you're branching off, you're doing your private label. Well, now you made it a success. You didn't want him, saying, I helped you with that. Like, no, Dad, it's my own thing I've got going here. Thank you very much.
Exactly. That's exactly what I wanted. So I knew that he could help me on the Amazon stuff because he had some sort of experience, a lot of experience with it. But I also wanted it to be very separate, and I didn't want to be stepping on his toes, and I didn't want him telling me how I should be doing it.
Yeah, I think that's normal. That's normal. My brother wanted to buy me out as well. He was like, "Oh, Dill, I want a percentage of your company for this amount," and I was like, "No, wait a minute. I think I'm going to go this. I'm going to go this alone. This is my baby that I'm going to grow, and I want to reap all the rewards myself moving down the line." So you went for it. The fact that it was passive was one of the reasons that you went for the business model. Can you explain to people there might be a few people who've literally just heard about this this word Amazon FBA. What does it mean? How does the process work in a nutshell?
Yes, Amazon FBA, fulfillment by Amazon. So you source a product or you research a product, you look at certain criteria. If it meets a certain criteria, there's enough sales, etc., then you go out to China and through Alibaba and you look at products that you think could sit well in that group or niche, and then you can work with the supplier to maybe adapt it to make it better, make improvements, or do a different design, or whatever you think is going to work. Place the order, it comes over. I guess what I did initially was to quality check it myself, which I'm really glad I did. And then it went into the warehouses. You set up your listing on Amazon, so all the bullet points, pictures, the description and everything. And then it's all sort of done through the platform. So they pick it, package it, send it, deal with returns, and all I get is emails saying we have shipped your item to whoever. They're
so unnecessary, those. Literally, you get for every sale, it's just like Amazon has dispatched your order. Greetings from Amazon. It's just you refresh your inbox. It's like email. It's like it's so unnecessary, but at the same time, I kind of like it. I do like seeing all my orders being shipped throughout the night. I'm not gonna lie, guilty pleasure of mine there.
I love it. And I love seeing where people have bought it from. I'm like, oh, someone's bought it from Guernsey.
It is. It's a bizarre feeling, though. It is, isn't it? Thinking that people, are using or have your product, all around the UK. I'm waiting for the day. It still hasn't happened that I've seen someone, using my product or actually bumping into someone and being like, oh. By coincidence, actually just like coincidentally seeing them and being like, oh, wow, that's my product. I think when that day comes, you've made it.
Yeah, I think the same. If I stumble across it in actual working life.
In real life, it'll just be like, oh, you have to try and act cool and not just be like, oh, that's mine, and go and grab it off and be like, hey, that's my product.
Yeah,
you probably will, though.
So yeah, that day hasn't happened to me yet either, but I've only got one product a bit early days.
Yeah, exactly. I'm behind. I'm still waiting for it. I need to put some hours in, I think, going out looking. I can't just hope that it's going to drop onto my lap. I've got to go out and find these people. I might even, hunt them down, check where they live, and just go and wait around. That might be classed as stalking, though.
Yeah.
That'd be a bit creepy, but it'd be worth it. It would be worth it. So, okay, a little bit of myth busting then. So, for people who are just looking to start now, myth busting, we're basically going to just have a quick chat about some misconceptions and preconceived sort of opinions that people have at the beginning, which are normal to have, but whether or not they're true or not. So, do you, in your opinion, and complete honest opinion, do you think you need expert e-commerce experience or have any experience selling on an e-commerce platform to start an Amazon FBA business, in your experience?
No, well, I didn't. I'd never sold anything before, not even like the old pair of shoes on eBay, not even done that.
Really?
So I was literally beginning. But what I would say is that you can't just go at it alone, really. I would say that, I bought your course and you gave me the mentorship, which I required. Many occasion where I was just like, what does this mean? Or I'm not quite sure about that. Or, God, the supplier have asked me this thing that was just full of jargon and, abbreviations. I had no idea what they meant. So it's true that you don't have to have any e-commerce experience, but you do need some level of support, therefore, if you have no experience at all. And that actually, in some cases, might be worse if you've got some level of e-commerce experience, because you might have learned bad habits, or maybe you've gone at it one way and it's not working, or you need more support. So maybe it's not helpful anyway. I've put some old pair of shoes on eBay before. Surely I can do it.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it your way. I'm going to do it the way that I sold my stinky pair of shoes on eBay. Yeah, it's a good point. I've never really thought of that. That makes sense. And I think as long as one of the key things that I've always adopted myself and been an advocate for is if you're open to learning, if you've got a broad mindset, you're willing to invest the time into learning new things, and you have to be capable. I mean, you have to be able to turn a computer on, you have to be able to use the internet, things like that. But overall, if you are willing to work on your own self-development, and whether it's a paid course or whether you use free content online, if you put the time in, I don't believe that the process is super complicated. It takes work, but it's not overly complicated. And I'm a true believer of that. So okay, we agree on that one. Another point. So a lot of people worry that you need a huge amount of capital investment to begin, right? And in some cases, it's down to the person, how much they spend on their first venture. But do you believe £10,000 I hear being thrown around a lot? How much did you start with, and what do you think is a reasonable amount that you feel, based on your experience, to get started with, including everything?
Yeah. Okay. So I think I spent about £3,000 on the item, getting it from China. That's what I spent.
Okay.
And then, once you add in the price of the course, the Jungle Scout subscription, or Helium 10, or whatever you want to be using, once you add in, maybe you want to get a quality check done out in China, so that's another few £100 gone. And when I first had the product delivered to my house, I used UPS, and that cost like £250 just to get UPS to take it from my house and put it in the warehouse. So there's all these sort of costs that do sort of
add up
along the way, that do add up, yeah. But it is very spread out, so it's not like you have to chuck in thousands of pounds all at once. I probably got my product ready over 9 to 12 months, really, because I'm really slow.
No.
But I'm careful. I was very considerate. I wanted to do everything right. So it doesn't come all at once, so it doesn't have to. And I have the benefit of having another business as well. So I used to do contracting in my work. I had another limited company, and that had money in the pot, so I could take out a certain amount of money from that and just reinvest it into this new business. So it was, for me, it was almost like I didn't really spend any of my money that was in my personal account. But you certainly don't need £10,000. It depends on your product.
It depends. It does. It does depend on the product.
You could go at a lower price point, and therefore you don't have to spend as much money. Whereas
Yeah.
I'm selling for £20 plus, so and I had to have a certain quantity from China. So
there's variables, aren't there? There's variables, like you said. There's the amount of units that you order, the cost per unit, how much you pay for shipping, the size of the product. Obviously, that will probably fit into the shipping cost. But a lot of people ask, how much does it cost? And it's like asking how long is a piece of string, I suppose. There's no exact amount because of all those variables and individual decisions that you'll have to make along the product research stages that will influence how much the total price will be. But I usually use a ballpark range. If you're looking at the average and you're not looking to spend a huge amount of money, between 1.5 and 3 would be, from my experience from students, the average amount. 1.5 being the bottom. So that's like if you're on a budget and you really want to do it as cheap as possible. But if you've got between 2.5 and 3, you're looking quite healthy. And like you said, that was enough when you're factoring in all the different things, because there are a lot of costs that add up, and it's important that people understand those before starting. I wouldn't say they're hidden costs because people are quite transparent about what they are, but you need to do your research into what they are, not just think, I'm going to buy 100 units for £2 each, spend £200 and that's it, because the reality of it is far from that. So, okay, so two myths busted. And again, just on that note, just very briefly, if you think about, in the grand scheme of things, where your business is now, and we'll talk about Alice's revenue and profits and things moving forward in the video, but it's a drop in the ocean, in my opinion. You can invest, if you were to, for example, start a restaurant. My brother started a restaurant. You could invest, 50, 60,000 in something like that, renovating a building and all the costs for advertising at the beginning. And if obviously you buy a property, it'd be even more than that. And you'll go grafting hard, working flat out. And obviously, if you enjoy your work, that's perfect. But this is a very small investment in comparison to what it can be scaled up to in the future. And we've seen examples of that time and time again with students. So good answer. I like that a lot. And okay, work then. So what about working full time and starting an FBA business? Again, I hear questions, people asking me, Dill, I'd love to start this, but I'm working 40 hours a week. I can't. It's obviously not possible then, is it? And I have an answer for them. And I wondered, how do you feel about that myth? I'm going to call it a myth before I've even asked you the question. But how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible. I've had a Monday to Friday 40-hour week job the whole time, and I just did the course on the weekend or a couple of weekends and put the hours in the evenings. In the product research stage, it's a lot more time consuming, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to really go through the steps and the process. It's time consuming working through all those different pages and products and looking at the data and like trying to analyze it and get it through your head, sort of thing. But once you've done that 4 to 6 weeks of product research stage, then you're on to trying to find a supplier. And once you've sent a few emails out, then you just got to wait for the response. And then when you get the response, you see, well, do the numbers work? And you do a few tables, few crunching, and then you send a few more emails. And there's a lot of toing and froing. And in that sense, it's only really keeping it ticking over and just making sure it's constantly moving. And maybe when you're doing your listing, that might take a bit more time to carefully get it right, make sure you've got all your keywords in there and do that research. But I would say that it's kind of a longer process to do this. So it's quite intensive trying to do the product research, but then over time, it's sizable. You can do it
manageable.
An hour a night, 2 hours a night, which I think most people could spare that.
Yeah.
And I certainly could. And I really struggled during the summer months because I'm like, oh, it's sunny, I want to go out and play. Do I want to do this Amazon FBA? But so I'd go out and play in the day, and then
put that on ice for the day and go out.
Go and have my social life or do whatever I like to do in the summer. And then just an hour or two in the evenings, and it's a good thing to try and do something every day, even if it's just small. But if you keep at it, it's a lot easier. Whereas if you don't, and then you have to end up doing intensive time.
Yeah, do all at once. It's good. It's good to try again to bite-size it, do it in little parts, and not not go out and play too much, and keep focused on what's happening. But I agree with you. The start is more intense. There's no denying that. The training, there's a lot to learn, and the product research stage is definitely more intense and time consuming. But it eases off. It gradually decreases as you move towards the end stages of the product launching. And to give an example now then, so your product is launched, and what do you put in time-wise a week, would you say, on average, if you don't include any further research into new products? So just maintenance.
Just maintenance, honestly. I would be surprised if I did more than 5 minutes a day.
I like it. That's good. This is what we're talking about. This is why, passive income, right? That's the whole point. So what's that? Like 35 minutes or half an hour a week. And I think on that note, it'd be good to show everyone. So at this stage, I know you went out of stock in during the middle months of the year. So you're clawing your way back up now as you're moving into Q4 and into the center of Q4. But how's your product? And only one product you've launched on Amazon, FBA. How are your sales going at the moment? If you've got you might have a little shot on your app there potentially. You might have to do a bit of back and forth action here. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, there we are. Perfect.
That's
15,500 this year. And what about if you go on this month? What about this month? If you refresh it and filter it for the monthly, how much have you done in October?
Oh, October. We're in November now. So
yeah, I should know that.
Zero.
Zero. Yeah, in October. I meant in October. In October.
How do I just select October though? Do you last 30 days?
Yeah, so last 30 days. That'll be October. I think it's just with lockdown. It just every month is just blending into the same now. It feels like Christmas for me, as I was telling you before the call.
Okay, last 30 days, 2,617.
Okay, and again, 5 minutes a day. That's pretty impressive stuff. And how about, as people, we talk about revenue a lot. Profit margins then, at this stage now when you're moving into, into the third month of coming back into stock, what is it's obviously never going to be exact, but what's your rough margin on that? How much are you actually profiting into your account every month from that, into your business account?
It's in between 30 and 35%.
30 and 35%, okay. And it was 2,500 revenue, was it?
Yes.
So around £800 then, roughly?
Yeah, about
£700 to £800, yeah. That's a huge amount of money, right? And, some may call it modest. I don't. I think it's fantastic and well done. It's absolutely awesome to see any amount, right? Because I speak to people who do 50,000 a month, 5,000 a month, 1,000 a month, 100 a month. But, you put a lot of work into that, and that's a mortgage repayment and, all your shopping for the week and some spending money passively. Who the hell wouldn't want that in their lives? It's a great thing, and I bet you it feels good. It's an awesome feeling knowing that you've got that extra income and your products are being enjoyed around the United Kingdom.
Yeah, it is, because I told you that I moved into my new house last year, and I got a spare room, so I rent my spare room out for £500 a month.
Really good.
So I'm making like £800 a month profit, and I don't even have to have someone living with me for that. But by the way, my housemate lives with me, and she's my friend for like 12 years, and I love her, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to say that I could, if I wanted to rent my room out to a complete randomer, I'd have to share my house with someone I didn't even know.
Yeah.
For £500 a month, or I could just set up Amazon FBA and get £800 a month. It's working out, but
it's a phenomenal amount. It's a life-changing amount of money, and it is for me. It is for anyone. That covers. When I was paying my mortgage, that would have covered my whole mortgage. It would have covered a food shop for the week, and it would have covered my bills. It would have pretty much been all my expenditure for the month covered, which is awesome considering it's passive. And again, the opportunity and like the mindset you've probably got at the moment, once you've chilled and you've enjoyed your time after having launched the product, but expanding and growing your product range, potentially diversifying now, you could, and again, if you had 10 of these products in 3 years, let's just say that was your goal, to have 10, maybe not the exact same product, that would be £8,000 a month coming in profit. And that's, you would know, that is achievable. It's doable. It just takes time. It just takes time. Have you got any plans to expand your product range or launch any new products, or are you happy at the moment and content with how things are going?
Yeah, so I'm happy with the sort of money that I'm earning, and I'm not, I'm in a good job. I have a good salary anyway, and I love my job. Like, I would never give it up. When people ask you, oh, you win the lottery, I still wouldn't give it up. I just love it.
That's nice. That's good. I like that.
I am also aware the industry that I'm in, it can be very, it comes and goes.
Volatile?
So I wanted to make sure that I had other sources of income, so that if it forced me into a position where I had to move to Scotland, because that's where the work was, I wouldn't want to move to Scotland. No offense, Scotland. But far away from Bristol.
Yeah.
So, no, I just wanted to be able to diversify where my income came from, and it's a lot more security. So, yeah, that's. I forgot what the question was.
Yeah, no. I've forgotten what the question was as well.
I digress too much.
Yeah, I'm the same. I go off on tangents, and then I'm like, what the hell was I actually talking about? No, we were talking about expanding the product range, weren't we? And if you wanted to launch more products, so again, so it's more about safeguarding and a contingency plan, and having that, being comfortable that you've got a second income were things to dry up a little bit. You wouldn't have to, like you said, pack up and move to Scotland or Wales. I'm sure you'd like to move to Wales. Move down here. You've got that. You've got a buffer. You've got a buffer, and that's a comfortable position to be in. And what about coronavirus then? How do you feel? And again, if you've not done research into facts and figures, but just what's your general impression about how do you think coronavirus has affected the opportunity to sell on Amazon?
Well, coronavirus definitely impacted me because China pretty much shut down when it was all kicking off back in the early part of the year with them.
Yeah.
So then I need to get more stock because I was running out of stock, but China's manufacturers shut down for a while, so I couldn't get them manufactured. And then when they did open the manufacturing again, then in this country it was all kicking off, and Amazon were limiting the amount of stock that I could put into the warehouses. So with that combination, I basically had about 3 months where I was out of stock and I wasn't selling. So coronavirus definitely had an impact, 100%. But I'm also seeing that Amazon sales are going through the roof because everybody's thinking, online, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So I don't know really. My experience is that it impacted me in terms of my stock getting it in, but in terms of sales, it's not impacted. It doesn't seem to have impacted in anything. It might have strengthened it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think logistically, the fact that China was shut down at that point, it delayed a lot of the manufacturing process for a lot of products that students had in the pipeline. Deliveries were delayed, like you said. Amazon were prioritizing, coronavirus essential goods or whatever they referred to it as. So it did hinder your performance levels, and more to do with the operating rather than performance, probably is a better way of putting it. So the operational side of things, it made things tricky for a while. But on the other side of things, the actual sales, from a sales perspective, it's going really well. I think they're from June, July, August, or May, June, July, they were up 60%. Their revenue from this time last year, and that's bang smack in the middle of what's going on. Like you said, people want to shop online. People want to avoid going out at the moment, and that's just fueling what's going on with Amazon FBA, and obviously we're there putting our products in front of those people, which is a positive thing. So. Okay, I mean, one question then. So moving into the launch stage, just to give people an idea. So. Did you use PPC to launch your product?
Not initially.
Okay, interesting. I like this. Let's talk about this, right? I remember that from our email. So how did that work? Because a lot of people would say you need it, and I partly agree with that.
Yeah, so you remember me saying that I basically had my stock arrive at my flat where I used to live.
Yeah.
And then in the same week I needed to move, so it was really stressful. But when I did move, when you move house, it's crazy. And in that time, obviously they'd gone into the warehouse. I wasn't even keeping up with the emails of has it checked in or not. I was just like, I moved in, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then I was in work one day and I just went on the emails and it was like, oh, Amazon has picked and dispatched your item. I was like, and I had 2 of those emails and I was like, what? I can't have sold already. I haven't even done anything. So I screenshot it and sent it to a few of my friends. I was like, oh my God, I've sold.
Oh my God, they're selling.
Like, how's this even happened? Like, so yeah, without even, doing any sort of PPC campaign or anything. So I think I contacted you at that point and went, look, I've made a few
What's
sales
going on
now, but let's get this momentum growing. And yeah, so I did do a campaign, I think, for a week or 2 at the beginning. But of course, when I launched, it was like the end of November last year. Mm-hmm. So I was moving into the sort of December, Christmas
period, yeah.
Sales. Not that my product was a particularly Christmassy or necessarily present sort of gift, but I think it could be.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened, whether that was a big advantage selling around, launching around the Christmas time, whether that boosted, my sales in any way. And January was strong as well, so I don't know whether people were still looking for bargains and things in January.
Well, we do see it. It's strange, and I do come across this scenario with students from time to time where people just launch and they just start selling. PPC is something that is I suggest using, and it's an effective tool if you use it properly. But at the same time, if you're launching in the scenario that you're in and they're selling, then happy days. If you are ranking quite quickly, they're selling without having to spend that cash. Your profit margins are going to be increased, and it works. And I've seen that happen with a lot of people over the last year. I honestly don't know why it happens with some products and it doesn't with others. And I think it's good to be prepared for it not to happen and to be proactive, I suppose, and to have a strategy in place. But ride the wave, if it's going well, don't try and fix something that isn't broke, so.
Yeah, I mean, even on the relaunch after the whole coronavirus fiasco, I thought, going with PPC this time because, it was so annoying to me that I'd obviously built up that ranking back in whenever I first launched and then I lost it. So I thought, right, let's get on the back on PPC, really push it. And I was looking at the figures and it was like, it wasn't really converting in a way that I was hoping for. So in the end, I just turned it off. And my sales have just gradually gone up and back to the levels of which they were before. So I don't know how it works really, because I was doing what I thought was right. I was targeting the right words and putting a healthy budget on. And I just didn't, for me, it didn't seem to be making much difference, if anything. So in the end, I just thought, well, I'll turn this off and see what happens.
And it's gone well. It's a bit of a minefield. Like PPC, people have lots of different approaches and ways of setting up campaigns and optimizing and things like that. And it does, for some products, it does work better than others. It depends on the niche itself, the category, your competition, the listing itself. Is it a converting listing? But there's lots of variables again with that. And things to perfect. Something that we could, possibly have a chat about, with the mentorship over the next few weeks if you did want to give it another try. I've got lots of new content that's coming out within the academy, so you could even look at just starting a small campaign with a set number of keywords that are your high converting ones from the one before, and we can just give it a spin and see how it goes. But again, not necessarily necessary if it's going well without. That was a bit of a tongue twister there. If you don't need it, then it's going well without it. Then keep going. Okay, well, just to finish, because I always end up chatting for about 4 hours in these interviews. So I think people fall asleep at the sound of my voice. They won't with your voice. You've got a lovely voice, but with my voice, people will just fall asleep. But for the ending, not a question, because this isn't a Q&A like we said. I'm not going to be like, question 1, question 2. But towards the end now, what would your advice be? So let's look at the typical person who's watching this video, right? They've probably watched about 50 videos. They are intrigued by the idea. They feel a bit overwhelmed. They're probably going to lose the desire that they feel now in their belly by the time they've woken up tomorrow morning, and it will probably fade. And over a couple of weeks, they might dip in and out of it and then never do it. What would your advice be to people who want to do it, but there's too many things holding them back, which is typically what we find?
Oh God. Well, I think you're either the sort of person that's just going to do it or not. I mean, I'm a risk taker. It was a calculated risk for me. I was thinking, well, sure, it might take a few grand, but the rewards could be bigger than that. Mm-hmm. So it was an educated risk for me. And the fact that, you're buying a course, you're getting mentorship, all the time that risk level is getting lower and lower because you're putting yourself in a position where the risk can be made lower because you're educating yourself and you've got a mentor that's there to support you. So for me it was an educated risk, and it was a risk I was willing to take. And sure, I got down the line and I was like, oh my God, am I really going to place this order for £3,000 on Alibaba with this random Chinese manufacturer that I've just been emailing?
Yeah. I bet everyone feels the same way.
Yeah, sure. At that point, I was a bit like, oh my God, am I really doing this? I'd come so far at that point, and I just thought, go for it. Because, I was scared. Yeah, I didn't know what. I could have just spent £3,000 and just thrown it down the drain for all I knew. I had no idea. I mean, I thought I'd put all the process and steps in, and I'd done the calculation. So I had to just trust myself at that point that I'd done the steps, I'd followed the process, and I've come this far, am I going to do it or not? And I just thought, if I don't do it, I'm going to regret it and just think, oh, what could have happened? Yeah. And if it goes wrong, then sod it, I've got a story to tell people.
Yeah, almost died.
I do that once, died on my ass. I don't know. So for me, it wasn't really a huge risk. I just thought, I'm young enough, that amount of money can be earned back. It's not really going to be devastating for me.
I like that mindset. Like you said, I think very, very good way of articulating it there. The fact that you had all the processes in place, the training, you knew the steps, you knew how it worked, and all of that is minimizing your risk. So it's a calculated risk that you make initially, and that risk is seemingly bigger at the start before you start to understand how it works. And as time goes on, you're obviously minimizing that risk with all your due diligence, and even things like having trade assurance and understanding how to launch and understanding how to select that product. That's all minimizing that risk, and it all plays a vital role in the end result, I think. So I agree with you there. You've got to have an open mindset. You've got to be the type of person to take action, basically. One of those people who's just, I'm starting my diet on Monday. Monday comes and they've failed by Tuesday. You got to try to not be that type of person. You've got to really stick to it. Because if you're not committed, you're not all in, there is no point in starting. There's no point starting the training. For example, if you're going to enroll in the Elite Academy, there's no point doing it if you're not going to take action after it. You need to, be that type of person. So I worked on that. I was on the fence, and it's normal to be on the fence. I think it is a big decision for a lot of people, and it's scary, that the fear of the unknown. If you've never done something before, you feel apprehensive, and it can be a bit daunting. But you've got to remember, with a community, and again within the academy, we've got this within the mastermind group. If you've got the support, and whether it's a paid course, like I said, or whether you're in just the free groups and you're mingling and networking with people and trying to piece it together yourself, both are definitely worthwhile. So, okay, well, we'll end it on that. That was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and how you got on with your first product.